Please like and subscribe. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft cries of a newborn. Vanessa cradled her baby girl, Jessica, in her arms. Jessica wriggled gently against her mother's chest. Beside them stood Derek, his eyes filled with tears of joy, awe, and unspoken fear. The delivery had been long and painful, but the moment Jessica entered the world, time seemed to stop. Vanessa forced a smile as the nurse congratulated them. Inside, however, she felt a strange emptiness, as if her joy was veiled by an invisible cloud. The reality of motherhood set in. Vanessa found herself crying often, usually in the shower where Derek couldn't hear. She loved her baby, but she felt overwhelmed, exhausted, and disconnected. Every diaper change, every late-night feeding added to a mounting sense of pressure. People kept telling her how lucky she was, how beautiful her daughter was, and how she should be glowing. But inside, Vanessa was breaking. Vanessa learned to wear a mask. She smiled for visiting relatives and posted happy pictures on social media. Everyone praised how well she was handling motherhood. Only she knew the truth, how she felt like a shell of her former self. She wanted to love being a mother, but instead, she felt like she was drowning in silence. Derek noticed the change. Vanessa was quieter, more withdrawn. He asked if she was okay, but she always replied, "I'm just tired." He wanted to believe her, but the way she looked at Jessica, detached, almost fearful, worried him. One night, he found her sitting in the dark nursery, staring at the crib with tears streaming down her face. The nights were the hardest. Jessica's cries pierced the silence, and Vanessa felt like a failure every time she couldn't soothe her. Sleep deprivation blurred the lines between reality and fear. One night, she whispered to Derek, "What if I'm not meant to be a mother?" Her voice trembled with guilt and despair. Derek held her hand and looked into her eyes. "Vanessa, you're not alone. I see you. I see the pain you're trying to hide. Let's get help, please." It was the first time someone had truly seen her. With his support, Vanessa agreed to talk to a professional. The fear of being judged was outweighed by the fear of losing herself. The therapist listened patiently as Vanessa poured out everything. After a few sessions, she was diagnosed with postpartum depression. The words stung but also brought relief. She finally had a name for what she was feeling. She wasn't broken, she was struggling with something real, something treatable. Vanessa began journaling, meditating, and talking openly with Derek. Some days were better than others, but each small victory felt monumental. She started to notice the softness in Jessica's eyes, the tiny grip of her hand, the rhythm of her breathing. One morning, as Vanessa changed Jessica's diaper, her baby looked up and smiled. It was brief but genuine. Vanessa felt a warmth flood her heart. For the first time, she smiled back, not out of obligation, but out of love. Something inside her had shifted. There were still bad days, days when the old feelings crept back in, but they didn't have the same power over her. Vanessa learned to ride the waves, leaning on Derek when she needed to. She forgave herself for not being perfect and embraced the messiness of motherhood. She also started to embrace her own needs again, taking walks, reading a chapter of a book, or simply taking a quiet bath. These small moments of self-care became acts of resistance against the weight she had carried. Derek remained patient, often stepping in to take care of Jessica without being asked. They functioned as a team, not just as parents, but as partners healing together. Vanessa began documenting her journey in a personal blog, not for recognition, but to help other mothers know they weren't alone. Her vulnerability attracted messages from women worldwide, many of whom had never felt brave enough to voice their struggles. This new connection to others fueled her spirit. In giving her pain a purpose, she reclaimed her strength. She no longer feared the shadows, they were reminders of the light she had found. Vanessa and Derek slowly rebuilt their intimacy. They began dating again, even if it was just a movie at home after Jessica slept. Vanessa opened up about her darkest thoughts, and Derek listened without judgment. Their love deepened, rooted in honesty and mutual respect. They learned new ways to communicate and support one another, taking time to truly listen. Derek began surprising Vanessa with handwritten notes and small gestures that reminded her she was loved. Vanessa, in turn, planned quiet dinners at home and shared her therapy insights. Their bond, once strained, began to blossom again. They laughed more, reminisced about their early days, and found joy in parenting together. Every shared moment, be it folding laundry, prepping a bottle, or simply sitting in silence, felt like rebuilding a home brick by brick. The cracks caused by stress and depression were now filled with empathy and devotion. Love, once dulled by fatigue, was reigniting with strength and purpose. And through it all, Jessica's smile became their shared source of light. They also created a shared journal, writing notes to each other about things they appreciated, things they hoped for, and even frustrations they wanted to express safely. It became a silent dialogue of healing, love, and partnership. The act of acknowledging one another daily brought them closer. The fire between them, once dimmed, was rekindled with understanding. Through shared laughter, heartfelt apologies, and new traditions, they rediscovered not only their roles as parents, but also as best friends and lovers. Vanessa started a support group for mothers dealing with postpartum depression. Sharing her story helped her heal further and gave others hope. She realized her voice, once silenced by shame, could now empower others. The group started small, just 4 mothers meeting in a community center once a week. But as word spread, more joined, eager to be seen and heard. Vanessa shared practical tools, emotional support, and encouragement. She brought in therapists and guest speakers, created a safe and nurturing space where no one had to pretend. The experience was transformative, not just for those who attended, but for Vanessa herself. Each time she spoke, her confidence grew. She was no longer defined by her pain but empowered by her journey through it. She even began mentoring younger mothers one-on-one, offering guidance and simply listening. Derek watched proudly from the sidelines, supporting her every step. Vanessa also began taking online courses in mental health advocacy, dreaming of expanding her group into a full nonprofit. Through all of this, she remained grounded by her love for Jessica and the partnership she'd rebuilt with Derek. Helping others helped her rediscover her purpose. She wasn't just a mother or a survivor, she was a leader, a light for others still lost in the dark. And with each new story she heard, she felt her own healing deepen. Months later, Vanessa stood in the park with Jessica in her arms, watching her giggle at the birds. The sunlight touched her face, and she felt peace. She had come through the storm, not unscathed, but stronger. Vanessa knew she would always carry this journey with her, not as a wound, but as a badge of resilience. And this time, when she laughed with Jessica, it was from the deepest part of her soul. The park was alive with color and movement, and in the middle of it all, Vanessa stood still, anchored, calm. She breathed in the fresh air, watched her daughter toddle on the grass, and felt her heart swell with pride. The memories of sleepless nights and quiet tears remained, but they no longer defined her. She had become someone new, wiser, braver, and more compassionate. She caught Derek's eye across the field, where he waved and smiled. In that moment, Vanessa understood that healing wasn't a destination, but a journey. One filled with stumbles and triumphs. As she lifted Jessica high into the air and heard her giggle ring out, Vanessa knew they had found their light, not just around them, but within them. She sat on a bench, pulling Jessica close, whispering promises of love and strength into her ear. Watching the other families, she saw reflections of her past self and sent them silent encouragement. She smiled as Derek joined them, wrapping an arm around her. Together, as a family, they had rewritten their story, and it was one filled with hope.